Hey everyone, Margarita here again, and I'm back with part two on the fallout from Sergeant Matthew Wilczynski and his ongoing crimes against me, which at the root is my deranged mother placing delusional phone calls to the Flat Rock Police Department repeatedly. So I'm going to go a little further into depth on what all happened after the damage to the house and some extra steps that were missed and should have been taken by the police department because it led to further fallout and further financial issues regarding the damage to my home and my life overall is really what it led to. So, once I realized he wasn't going to help me and wasn't going to file a police report regarding the criminal negligence and the damage to the home and was not willing to cooperate and help get the tenants out so that way the water damage could be mitigated as the insurance company had directed. It needed to be done immediately. On top of all this, these people had a Section 8 voucher, and you cannot stay in a home with a Section 8 voucher that is filled with mold and had the type of damage that my home had. It's they have very strict rules when it comes to all that, and it wasn't allowed as well. On top of the fact that she did not notify them of the damage and then claimed to not be able to reach me regarding this damage, which is why it was supposedly not reported. But at the same time, she was able to reach Section 8, who was able to reach me via numerous methods. So it was a complete lie that they couldn't reach me, that no one could reach me because Section 8 did know how to reach me all along. There wasn't an issue there. And due to everything that had happened with him not wanting to get them removed for the day, to get the door open, to get the mitigation team in, to mitigate the majority of the damage on the main floor, at least just get it ripped up, because really the mold needed to be addressed. And at that point in time, it couldn't fully be addressed, but the mitigation team did work on this for about 2 weeks. And she allowed them to come in for those 2 weeks sporadically. Their machines were inside the house in the basement and on the main floor. And they did dry it out somewhat, but they couldn't fully mitigate it. So once that team had gotten their machines out and such, that was when she locked the doors, did not allow them to come in. And I already knew there was an issue with the police department. Luckily, I was able to make my way in using the contractors to get it all under control. But I wasn't asking the police department to remove her permanently that second. I already had things in the works to have her removed the proper way through the court system. But due to the holidays, yes, it was delayed a significant amount of time, more than it should have been in a regular situation because of those holidays. So I don't know if he just thought I was dumb and thought that like I didn't know how things worked, which I'm pretty sure is what he was. That's kind of what it seemed like. On top of it, he's getting his information from my deranged mother, who I know called at some point during this and had stated to him that he was going to have a problem with me because I'm just so dumb. I let some idiot stay in my house, and I'm just this broke bitch who couldn't afford her house, which is why this lady was in my house. And they're all agreeing and nodding and shaking their heads and like, oh yeah, that's what happened because EPA cleared the area. There's no problem with the gas. And there was another situation where they thought it was a joke about the gas spill because I had called them at some point when I was in Ohio, placed a phone call. They were acting like it was a joke, haha, like because the EPA had told all these people it was all clear. Well, yeah, it's all clear for those people, and it wasn't actually EPA's level of all clear for some months. But nobody was comprehending the severity of our injuries, how open our brain tissue was. We were already in that boat years prior to the gas spill happening. And I don't need somebody to tell me where the particles are because everything flows right through it, loads right up. This particular gas causes brain bleeding and other specific symptoms. It feels like dirty rain running through my brain and my entire body. Each particle of different kinds, they're all a little bit different. They all have different effects. So these people all think this was a joke. And then they're joking with my deranged mother, who's telling them there's going to be this problem with this tenant because I'm just so dumb and I'm just so broke and nobody was paying my bills anymore. So I just couldn't afford the house. and none of which was real. It was all 100% due to this gas spill and my mother inserting herself in it, and these people all being so ignorant, them really believing I was never injured, that my brain tissue isn't open, believing that EPA's level of all clear is actually all clear, that it's safe for everybody, or that I wasn't in the predicament I was in, when it's all provable. It was already going on for years. So they're all a bunch of low-level idiots over here snickering about all of this when none of this is funny. So they really just believed I couldn't afford my house, and I'm just so dumb, and I put this other dumb bitch in the house. And at no time was that ever the case. When people have Section 8 vouchers, I don't know about now because there's a lot of problems going on with Trump removing them and limiting them and not making the payments on them. So times have changed since that day. But when it comes to that, people who have those vouchers have to maintain the home properly. Otherwise, they lose their voucher altogether. And so these people are all snickering about this like I didn't know what I was doing. Well, that doesn't make any sense. Why would somebody who needs their voucher let the house be destroyed in that manner when they know they need the voucher and those are the stipulations to keep it? So it's a huge problem, because if you talk to any other Section 8 landlords, they will tell you that those are some of the best tenants that they've had, because that's how they get to keep their voucher. If they mess that up, then they lose it forever. And that's widely known. And I had about 30 contractors come give me quotes on the work in the house. And a lot of those contractors own properties, or their families do. And they've all said the same exact thing. They all had many different Section 8 tenants all saying the same thing as well. So it's all verifiable information. I'm sure you can even look this up on Google and find stories about this where people are talking about this. So wherever this information was coming from, it was all just delusions and lies being passed back and forth amongst all of these people, with my mother at the root, with the city at the root, with the police department at the root, and they're all just snickering about this gas bill, and I'm just so broke. And then they spun it into this whole false narrative. It was already a false narrative, and they took it 100 steps further when none of that was real. There was no reason for me to ever leave my house in the first place. This house was already done. It was almost done. It had future plans. Everything I had been building all these decades was ready to finally continue forward on with the next steps after everything I'd already been through and everything I'd lost all along the way because of my deranged mother and because of my injury, and the steps were about to move forward when all of that happened. It doesn't add up. At no point was I ever not able to afford my house. I had plenty of money and I was making plenty of money. It's all of these actions and these crimes and the spill, and then the actions of all these people during all this that caused further financial damage, because then I was forced to buy another home, forced to put these tenants in it. Now I'm forced to deal with the damage, all this ongoing fallout. So there was just all this mess that came out of this. At no time could I ever not afford my home. I had minimally 15 grand in the bank the day that I left here initially. So at no time was that ever my situation after everything that had already gone on, and I was still paying for treatment out of pocket every week, $600 a week. And here at this time, I'm still limited, not able to work fully. I was really only able to work about 3 nights a week. Way less than 20 hours a week I was working, and still making somewhere between $1,000 and $2,000 every weekend. And that's the way it was the whole time. So these people are extremely delusional. It all ties back to all of their crimes, all of their delusion passing during all of this. But then what happened further, it didn't matter. I didn't need them to get into the home. What happened further after that was the fact that I was aware that the homeowner's insurance company had already mailed out a check. They'd mailed out 2 checks at 2 separate times. And it was regarding the first payment. They were trying to pay me in full what they considered the full amount for the damage. It did total out to be very close to $100,000 in the end. Once I got the public adjuster involved, once I got the proper amount flowing, it did total out to be somewhere close to that, along with the items in the basement that were all mine. And most of those I have not replaced at this point because the house still isn't all the way finished. But I also don't have the basement finished either. And I'm still waiting on additional funds to finish that. There's 2 separate departments still working on that. That is the last step. So I don't actually have the total number, but initially the check was supposed to be 13 grand is what they were trying to give me to fix the entire situation, when it was literally 100 grand. So with that, I had to hire the public adjuster in order to get the proper amount of funds to address the damage. It did take some months. Now, when they sent that first check out, it was for $13,000, which I knew I was going to further be able to get the proper amount. It just wasn't going to be in that moment. So that was just the starting point of beginning to address it. Even though they thought in that moment that was going to be the full amount they were going to give me, I knew I was going to take further steps and get what I was rightfully owed or close to it. So yes, the 13,000 and some dollars was on its way. Then there was an additional check of several $1,000s for some of the stuff in the basement. And at that point, I had only addressed half of the basement worth of stuff because there was so much down there and there was so much mold, and I couldn't be in the home. I actually lost my hearing for 4 days and had to treat numerous times to reverse what I had taken in. I had to leave the other half of the basement and address it at a later time, months later, after they were out, after I had some people helping me, and after I managed to clear out some of the other materials of the home, and until I got that other check rolling for the other half of the basement and the stuff that was down there that was all mine ruined. So those 2 checks were in the mail, and I knew they were mailed out on separate days. I knew they were coming to this address. And after everything I already dealt with regarding the police department, regarding the tenant not letting anybody in the home, she already knew she was being evicted. She knew she had caused extensive damage, not just the water damage, but throughout the home and upstairs as well, which had nothing to do with the insurance claim, because her kids had thrown food and drink on every wall in every area of this home when this home was just remodeled 12 months prior. And she knew she was being evicted, and she was really mad about all of this. And she thought she was going to leisurely stay here for some months and just leave eventually, when I'm like, that's not how this works. That's not what's going on. She just wasn't like in reality about any of this. So she got really mad about it. And at that point, I knew there was going to be a problem receiving those checks that the insurance company had mailed out. And I wasn't exactly sure when they were going to be coming. So because I was living in Ohio and I was passing through the area from time to time, but I wasn't seeing the checks. I was trying to check the mail from time to time. However, what she was doing is she was getting to it before I could ever even get my hands on it. And she threw away the 2 checks is what she had done. I was pretty well aware that that's what was going on. I just couldn't prove it. But based on the amount of time that went by from the time I knew they were mailed out to the time I was sitting around the corner numerous times waiting to try to like jump in between and grab the checks, which I wasn't able to do. I wasn't able to get them any of the days I tried. I knew she had taken them. So what I did was I put a hold on the mail at the post office. They only held it for a short period of time, a couple weeks. It was like 2 or 3 weeks. And I told them what the reasoning was, what had happened. And technically, this is my legal address. It had never changed. I already knew in advance I was going to be back no longer than 24 months later, and that they were only renting out 2/3 of the home. Well, the people at the post office wouldn't allow me to keep the hold on it, and they acted like I was doing something illegal, and they threatened to call the cops on me after I even told them that this lady was throwing away my insurance checks. So the post office also played a role in all of this. And then eventually I tried to report to them that she had thrown away the check. She was the only adult in the home that could have done it. And they still didn't take action because I was told that the post office moves forward with charges on something like that, and they refused to do so. And they said because she didn't try to cash them, that they weren't going to do anything about it. Like, so that still caused a further issue, because this all led to me filing Chapter 13 bankruptcy. So eventually the post office took the hold off, and I didn't know exactly where the checks were going to be. I eventually called back, had them canceled, and had them rerouted to my P.O. box in Ohio, where the 2 checks did eventually arrive at my P.O. box in Ohio at 2 different times. But the thing was, the girl had also not paid the difference that she owed for the amount of bills that were due, because they were racking up utilities like crazy, and they were just leaving all the lights on, leaving water running, and I do believe they were doing this intentionally, a little more than normal. Her kids were reckless anyway doing this, and then she went fully with it and just allowed it to happen. And I do believe they began to do it intentionally after they knew they were being evicted. So the amount she owed for that time period, the number was like adding up quickly because of the size of the home and the amount of lights they were leaving on, the amount of water they were leaving running. It turned into a really big situation, and she wasn't paying that difference either. So that amount built up, and then at the same time, I did get the $13,000 check. But because she was delaying paying anything toward what they had owed, then the mortgage payment was late. And then the mortgage company wanted to monitor the insurance funds because then the mortgage payment became late. So I had to send it off to the main bank. At the mortgage company was Fifth Third. I had to send it off to the main bank in Ohio. And they were dispersing it in increments of percent based on percentage done and whatnot. So it took some time to get the first disbursement, which threw everything off. She was also throwing away other mail. It was not just the insurance checks because she wasn't paying the bills properly. And because I kept getting re-injured, I had 2 additional brain injuries during that time I was gone. And that was another near-death experience. I did die on the floor at Walmart for 15 minutes and came back again without medical intervention, and then was kicked out of the hospital without treatment again. After all that had happened. And that brain injury, and then the other one where my brain was bleeding, where there was an altercation the night that the dumpster was getting delivered as well. Those 2 had happened, and I was losing functioning. I wasn't able to make up the additional money after everything that was going on. And here they're just using up my resources. And then because of the holiday, I couldn't get them out quick enough. There's all these matters going on at the same time, and I'm not able to balance all of it because of how injured I am already. And at the same time, my dad was injured, and here I was dealing with my mother's crimes in the background while she's trying to finish him off, while I'm paying for everybody to eat out, while my dad's getting rushed back to the hospital during all of this repeatedly, running back and forth between Michigan and Ohio. I eventually drove straight through my brand new tires. They weren't even, I think the oldest one was 21 months old. I eventually drove straight through all of those tires. And had to replace them. There was just so much going on. I didn't have the ability to make up the difference in what I needed to cover what they were racking up intentionally, because they're mad that they caused this damage and they're getting removed from the home. At the same time, the post office is over here participating in the crimes. Then you got the Flat Rock Police Department, and Matthew Wilczynski is over here participating in the crimes, basically telling me I can expect no help from them. They're not going to help me. They're not going to do anything about it. They're not taking any reports from me whatsoever. This is all criminal in nature. The damage itself is criminal in nature, especially because of the amount and the fact that she just was not supervising these kids whatsoever. I do believe she was leaving them home numerous different times without another adult here. I mean, I do believe that because I think I came in the middle of this a couple of times. But that's what was going on. So when it came to these checks, that $13,000 check, still, it was delayed. It should have already been in my hands 4 to 6 weeks prior to when it did become in my hands. And then the other one did trickle. I don't even know. I never even seen the other one. It eventually made its way to my P.O. box in Ohio after they had already been removed from the property. So it wasn't until toward the end of January that I got that other one reissued. So by the time all of this had happened, everything was backing up. I'm extremely injured. I'm extremely messed up from my own injuries, my dad's injury, my mother's crimes. This is all going on at the same time. I'm running all over the place. And then I got the Flat Rock Police Department working against me, not trying to help me. So she had thrown away about $17,000, $18,000 worth of checks. And that amount of money would have been enough to keep me out of bankruptcy and catch up the payments that I needed to catch up to keep everything running smoothly, to get things resituated. So either, if she'd just been a normal person and handed the checks over, there wouldn't have been an issue. Or if the Flat Rock Police had done their job, there wouldn't have been a further issue. But they both participated in these crimes against me, acting criminally. And it eventually led to my Chapter 13 bankruptcy, because not only was she throwing away the checks, she's throwing away mortgage documents and statements from my mortgage company and notices from my mortgage company. Everything still comes here. My mail was all coming here the entire time. This is still my main address. Again, I was already set in advance to come back by a specific date at the latest. It would have been June of 2024 at the latest. So it ended up being till beginning of January 2024. And I was gone about not even 18 months, actually. I was gone like 15 months. But still, it was already set in advance. None of these documents should have been thrown away. Because everything was getting thrown away, it then led to my house being foreclosed. I was in pre-foreclosure. It wasn't like foreclosed, but I wasn't receiving the documents, and then the post office wasn't willing to hold anything, and this lady's just throwing it all away, acting like it never came. It then led to me being forced to file bankruptcy and then coughing up several $1,000s to pay the bankruptcy attorney up front. Because I'm self-employed, I had to pay this money up front. So then what money I did have, I had to pay it to him. By the time I realized there was a serious situation, how deep it had gotten, because then I knew it was a couple months, at least 2 or 3 months. I wasn't exactly sure because I wasn't receiving any of this stuff. But then I had to get him involved, and he had to immediately file all of this paperwork. It was an extreme hassle. There was a lot of red tape regarding my situation, especially because I'm self-employed, owning more than one property. With the insurance claim, the damage to the house, I also had an open workers' comp claim. At the root was the cause of everything that had gone on. After spending nearly 200 grand out of pocket on treatment, there was all these issues and all this red tape, and it was so urgent. He had to do this work. His office had to do all of this work basically overnight. Within a couple days, he had to get all of this filed. And they actually filed it a day too late, and the house accidentally went up for foreclosure when it shouldn't have. But it was stamped with a time as well. So the time is actually what saved it, because it was technically before it all started. And I figured it out at the very last second, was able to contact them. They were able to get it situated. There was, I believe it was 2 or 3 days that went by. I wasn't sure what was going to happen. They were trying to hammer it all out behind the scenes. And it really was a bunch of criminal negligence, criminal intentional acts, and then a mistake with the date of the bankruptcy attorney's office. It really wasn't their fault. It's really just how my life actually goes. It's been going this way my entire life. He probably thought it had something to do with him. And then I said, oh, no, you don't know how my life goes. I don't blame you at all. It has nothing to do with you. This is just how my life always has been. And it's really hard to explain that to somebody, because none of what I deal with is normal. But he was able to stop everything and put it where it should have been. Either way, I still would have been given 6 months to get everything in order to sell the house if it still went sideways from that mistake. But it was able to get all resituated. Either way you look at this, all of these agencies played a role. The Flat Rock Post Office, the Flat Rock Police, Sergeant Matthew Wilczynski, the tenant in the house, her name's Jennifer Fulop. Nobody better ever rent to her, ever. I don't know what's going on with Trump and the Section 8 vouchers. I'm sure she's past her limit of ever having one, and I don't believe she would ever been qualified after leaving my home to ever have another one after what had happened and the amount of damage I had to submit to the agency on what she had done. You don't get to keep your voucher after that. But I do know that she should never be allowed to rent anywhere ever after what she had pulled. And the amount of papers that were thrown away, and how the Flat Rock police were not willing to help during any of this. These are criminal matters. You just threw away $18,000, and then the police don't want to help because this guy's ignorant, just being told that I can't afford my home because he's operating with my deranged mother in the background, believing all these delusions about me, when still I'm just sick fighting for my life while all of this is going on still. So it is all criminal in nature. It is at the root of all this. Again, Matthew Wilczynski is at the root of all this. So no criminal action was taken regarding this $18,000 between the two checks, all of the additional important documents that were thrown away, all the problems it caused, which led to the bankruptcy. Because if those checks hadn't been thrown away, there wouldn't have needed to be filed a bankruptcy, and I wouldn't have had to cough up several thousand more dollars to give to the attorney's office to begin the bankruptcy, which I'm under for a total of 5 years. So it's been over a year and a half now, but that should have never happened. At the same time, I have to pay everything back at 9% interest. There is additional bankruptcy fees in there as well, thousands of dollars worth on top of the few thousand I spent initially. So when you add all that up, it totals out to be like I think an additional $20,000 or $30,000 worth that's added in there because she threw those checks away, and because Matthew Wilczynski refused to take any reports on all of this criminal activity going on with the checks and with the damage to the home. They're all involved. Every single person and agency is involved in it getting to that point where everything got to, how all of that even happened in the first place. None of that should have ever happened. So I was able to get it all back in order. And what I do is what I've been doing since that day, I just make like one very large payment every month. And yes, I owe interest on it. Yes, I have to pay it back. But that's how it all got back in order. Once that time period is up, then everything reverts back to my normal payment with all debts paid. I do have quite a bit of equity in the home, so there wouldn't be a reason for me to walk away or start over. The best way out of this would be to continue moving forward, restore the home, put everything back in its place, carry out my original plans from, all along several years ago or before I even bought this house. This was the plan before I ever bought this house. So the best way out of this is to continue forward because the amount I owe on the home is less than half of what it's worth. So that's really my best way out. There really isn't a financial issue. It's really 100% due to all of these crimes, each individual participating, what led to all of that. And then I'm still working with the homeowner's insurance to this day. I'm still working on the damage. It's not 100% situated. So I don't know what that difference is between the amount the actual damage was and what I was given, which then I would be able to sue for in court. But then at the same time, she caused all these problems, threw away all the checks. All of these problems came out of this with these additional fees, all this extra money that I have to pay back because of her criminal actions. So still, I can't report all that to the police and go to court with the proper documentation to get a judgment against her to eventually put a lien on any vehicles or get any tax returns in the future or any child support she may receive or Social Security or whatever she plans on doing in the future. I would at least be able to enter a judgment to get the money down the line for the difference. But still, I don't even have that number, the difference number, because I'm still working on the rest of the damage with the homeowner's insurance. So let's just say in a few months, I do get that situated. I would then be able to come up with the ending number of that mixed with the amount and all the fees and the bankruptcy filing fee and the attorney's fees and the interest, everything. That's all a result of her criminal actions. So really, I still need to make a police report. But unless Sergeant Matthew Wilczynski is removed from the force, then I'm not going to be able to make a police report on any of this and take it to court. I'm not going to be able to file a court date and just go to court over what she owes when I don't have a proper documentation from the police and they're not willing to help or give me that. I mean, I could try, I guess, but I don't really see it fully being going into effect without the police report and what actually happened. And he's not going to write that he helped participate in the crimes and refused to help get the situation under control in an emergency and then allowed the girl to continue doing damage and throwing away checks while threatening to falsely arrest me. He's not going to write that about himself. So that's kind of the situation and what all of that led to and the fallout of all that with my mother at the root, with all this chaos and destruction going on all at the same time in every which direction. That's what was going on. And I'm still dealing with the fallout because I am still working on the house today. It's like what, 16, 18, 19, July, 19 months? It's been like 19 months that I've been working on all of this heavily, nonstop for 19 months. And I still don't have it. It's maybe 70-75% done with the next steps. I do have the next batch of stuff bought to take the next steps, but I am still waiting on additional checks from the insurance to address the basement. I just have it closed off. We just don't use it. So that's where I'm at with all of that. Still, it's taken all of this time. And with me being significantly re-injured all those times, I pretty much had to stop everything else I've been working on other than these videos to address all of this, because there's no way for me to incorporate anything else into my life while I'm working on the home. At the same time, there was all these additional spills. Ford Motor Company spilled 2 more times, not nearly as much as they did when I was forced away from my home. It was still enough to at least remove me from the upstairs portion of my home and force me downstairs. But then I had to shelter in place for some time, and then there was the Fukushima flushing and the wildfires. So all of that played a role in me being forced to shelter in place all over again. Um, but I'm still dealing with all the fallout of all of this. None of this should be my situation. I should have already had my next house purchased. I shouldn't own one in Ohio. I should already be somewhere else where those additional Ford spills shouldn't have been an issue. But all of this is the result of all of these ongoing crimes, crimes of the Flat Rock Police, fallout of all his actions, all Matthew Wilczynski's actions, directly him at this point with what has gone on regarding this matter, but all those other matters I was speaking of in the previous video, it is numerous officers, but specifically this situation is the fallout of his actions directly and refusing to help in any which direction, just wholeheartedly believing my deranged mother that I'm just this broke loser who shouldn't have the house that I have. And I guarantee you there is a whole bunch of jealousy and envy mixed in with this. I'm sure I'm ahead of this guy in life. And he's just extremely jealous and envious. And then he's receiving all these phone calls, pretty much just assuming that other people have been paying my bills. That's how I get to live here, looking at me like I'm just some spoiled brat when that's not the situation at all. And I've 100% worked for everything I have. But going forward, I don't know exactly how I'm going to go about getting this judgment entered once I do finish up the homeowner situation, because I don't intend on going to the Flat Rock Police Department for anything. I don't care if somebody broke into my house with a gun and is trying to kill me. I'm certainly not calling 911 or the Flat Rock Police Department. I'll be damned. I'll tell you what, I won't be doing that. There's like 5 other things I'd be doing before I ever do that. And I'm better off calling for a pizza delivery. I'd probably get further help if I called for a pizza delivery versus calling 911 or the Flat Rock Police Department for any matter, because they are so far off their rocker and what they perceive in my situation, how they perceive it as a whole, what's all gone on, the threats that keep being made to me. I just can't get help no matter which way you look at it. So I don't intend on going there to make the reports. So I guess I'll do an updated video once I do finally finish the work and I do figure out how I'm going to take the next steps to take this to court and try to get a judgment entered. I mean, that might be a good idea, to just file the paperwork myself and then tell them what's all gone on, because these are criminal actions and this guy's just getting away with acting this way, talking to me this way, committing these crimes against me, causing all these problems. Really, he needs to be investigated. He needs to be removed from being a police officer ever again. He needs to serve prison time for the amount of damage and chaos and conflict he's caused. It's all provable. It's all there. Unless he's deleted all the videos, even then, some of it's still provable. There's still witnesses. There was charges put on me and whatnot. There is some proof. So I don't know for sure if anything's really been deleted or tampered with, just like Brownstown had done. I will figure that out down the line when I get to FOIA requesting the entire case file of everything that's happened since I've lived here. I will get there eventually, and I'll figure that out then. So there's numerous other steps I need to take before I can figure out what needs to happen going forward regarding all this. But this really stems back to all of the criminal actions of the Flat Rock Police Department and Matthew Wilczynski. He is at the root, 100%. None of this stuff should be going on. I'm the one forced to deal with the fallout, and just more fallout on top of more fallout on top of more fallout. There's no other way for me to get everything back in order for my life to flow without picking up the pieces of the damage to the house, without picking up the pieces of the damage of everything I have going on, especially with my health as well, because I've had a lot of exposures. There's been a lot of spills and flushes. So that's another issue, and I'm not always feeling the greatest. So I do spend quite a bit of time just laying here in dead silence, because I do spend about 50% of my time laying down. Since I've been back to this, not really since the whole time, because I have been working on the house, but I have been spending about 50% of that time or more literally just laying here, which I was never able to do at any point during this. I was living in extreme chaos from the day of my injury all the way until several months ago. that's just how it's been. So that's like really the most rest or recovery I've ever had throughout the course of my entire injury since 2018. And there isn't a bunch of people in my household screaming and creating chaos. It's literally just me and my youngest, and then my daughter dropped a cat off here. Sometimes the cat does get on my nerves. I really can't handle taking care of pets, but as long as she's quiet, there's not usually an issue. There is some problems here and there because she seems to be a very sensitive little kitty. Um, and she has thrown up numerous times from just small amounts of things that she shouldn't be throwing up from. She's just a very sensitive cat, is what I've come to learn on many levels. And go figure, because that's kind of my situation and my son's situation. So it looks like she belongs with us. But I know that that's not normal for a cat. I have had a few cats here or there for very short periods of time, nowhere near as long as I've had this one here. But I know that that's not normal for the cat to have these little reactions that she's been having on certain things. She's just really sensitive to many things. And that's the only thing I really have to worry about. My son is more self-sufficient at the age that he is now. But there's not a bunch of people in chaos screaming and running throughout my house, causing all these problems. And as long as nobody is showing up here from the police department or any other agency, there seems to not be any problems. So, that's the most rest and recovery I've gotten throughout any of this. And I'm just trying to take things one day at a time, piece things back together, one piece of flooring at a time, one wall at a time as I paint, touch up, paint this and that. Most of it's done. As I'm waiting on the next checks to travel in, I am still working on some paperwork, and I have been filming these videos. So I knew for a long time I was going to be filming these videos. I've known for about 7 years. As I'm piecing together all these crimes, everything that's gone on, as I'm delivering the information in full videos, I will then go back and do some shorts and release those that way down the line. I just had to get the full videos up. That's why there's not as many views on my videos as there would be if I was doing shorts on the different platforms that I've been using. I mean, there is quite a few views, but what I will do is I'll go back, I'll do shorts. So there's going to be quite a few more videos coming. I'm literally just scratching the surface on everything I've been through overall, everything that's gone on, the amount of crimes. I'm still just scratching the surface. I know it seems hard to believe, but there's a lot more information to come. There's a lot of other avenues I haven't talked about yet, all these other situations going on. I will get there. I'm just taking things one step at a time. And I will be back with more very soon. Stay tuned, because I have a lot of other subjects that I have a lot of knowledge on, everything I've had to learn throughout the course of my injury and the course of my life, through everything I've dealt with. I have quite a bit of information to share with the world. It's going to be very beneficial to many, many people. It's going to change a lot of lives. That's also part of the reason I do believe I'm under such heavy spiritual attack, and why all these problems are going on and why they've been going on. Because if I am able to get all this information out, in the manner in which I want to, and the subjects in which I want to dive deeper into, and everything I have to talk about, it's going to change hundreds of thousands of lives, if not millions of lives. So stay tuned for more. I have years of filming to go. I will be back with more very soon. Thanks. Bye.